able to help students on campus to be able to sell their properties, and we're charging between 10 to 15% based on what you wanted to sell. And this came up with me just looking at simple product like Craigslist back at the time, back in the days, and then just designing a very, very sweet, maybe not sweet at that time, but now it's pretty much scrappy every time I look at it again. Designed a very simple landing page, and with that, that's how my journey in tech literally started. And I've gone on from doing that to today finding my way in Flutterwave. So I want to share my screen and basically walk you guys through a very interesting story as part of my discussion with the team today. If you can see my screen, kindly confirm if you can see my screen. Can you guys see my screen? Blessing?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I wanted to start this conversation with the Kodak story. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Kodak, but Kodak is a digital photography company, right? That was very, very popular in the early 50s, in the mid, early 50s up until 2012. At the time, Kodak basically dominated the entire photography market from Hollywood down to Polo project. If you go to family reunions as well, all of the single cameras everybody's holding then is Kodak. And they were also known to be a very, very innovative company. So Kodak has always been called, in fact, at the time they were called the Google of that century, right? But by the middle of the 20th century, something happened, right? And Kodak was not able to innovate with the timeline. What really happened? So at that time, but prior to that time, Kodak had already captured about 90% of the entire film industry and 85% of the camera sales markets in the United States. But by 2012, their revenue had plummeted, right? And at the same time, they filed for bankruptcy, and they had to basically lay off over 50,000 employees. So the question now is, what really happened, and why did Kodak shut down as a business? The simple answer to that is basically centered around digital. So businesses or companies were now, so digital camera was actually introduced during that time frame, and Kodak did not move along with the innovation. So the question now is, as a company known as the Google of its day, right? If you guys know Google today, Google is one of the major resources where you go to get a lot of information. They're like the go-to company, one of the biggest companies in the world today, right? And Kodak was in that same position in the mid-centuries. And Kodak could not go beyond. And in 2012, Kodak had to file bankruptcy and actually shut down, laying off over 50,000 staff, right? But the reason wasn't because Kodak was not innovative. It was simply because the executive team or the executive leadership of Kodak was not in tune with the time or with the change that was actually happening. The screen, what you can see on my screen being displayed is the first digital camera that was actually demoed to the Kodak executive team, right? But after the end of the demo, part of the feedback was that they are not ready to do this, or they are not ready to actually switch into pushing a digital camera at this time for so many different reasons. And for the mere fact of not switching from a used scenario, right, into digital cameras that was taking over the film market, Kodak could not survive. In fact, in 2015, over 1.5 billion smartphones were actually bought by individuals. So it means the moment the digital technology came into play, digital camera photography came in, and Kodak did not switch with the market or follow the trend at that time, they were caught off guard, right? Smartphones also came in, and it became easy for every single individual to have cameras on their phone. And within that particular time frame, it was a difficult time for Kodak to actually innovate or actually survive that switch. Now, the question some of us basically ask ourselves is, why would this have happened? Or for a company that has actually grown so big, that was making a lot of money, that had 90% of the market share in the entire US, move from being the biggest to actually going to almost zero, or actually going bankrupt, filing for bankruptcy in 2012. There's a phrase for it in psychology, but the clear term is, let us look at it this way as individuals. If you are running a business, or if you're working in a company, and you have an idea, right? And or you are actually pitching an idea to a team, and somebody is telling you that, and there are basically two options. The first option is that if we go with this phase, we have a 90% chance of, if somebody if you go with this approach, you have a 90% chance of basically making $1 million naira, right, or 100 million naira. But if you go with this approach, you have a 1% chance, 1% chance of basically hitting 1 billion naira. What would you go with? Most people will go with the 90% chance because you are brother. Everybody wants to go with the safety zone, right? Everybody wants to go with safety net where you're sure of hitting a particular target. But the one you're not sure of, you don't want to take the risk. People are basically playing. So at that point, Kodak being the biggest in the market, they had the biggest in the market. They had very, very good revenue. They had over 50,000 employees. They were making a lot of money. The executive team in Kodak at the time didn't see the need to actually switch from the product they had to the digital products, which was actually becoming the trend at that time in the market. And for that mere reason, they could not scale beyond that. For the same reason as well, a lot of products today die in the market. And in fact, Google is one of the biggest companies in the world today that has, they have a particular portfolio dedicated to all of the products that they've built and have actually failed, right? And that's because sometimes when these products are built, you put them out in the market just to test run and see how the users or the customers are actually going to respond to it. Not because you have all the answer, but because you actually want to test and get use cases as to why if this product is actually good or not. Now, what are some of the lessons for us as product managers or product individuals from the Kodak story? There are very core lessons here for us. One is, as a product manager, failure must be an option for you, because in the midst of being scared to actually fail, you are withdrawing yourself or holding back from taking a 10x risk that can actually give you the chance of scaling further than you actually can. And limitations, without fear, you have a lot of limitations tied around you. And this is not good for you as a team or even as a product manager. Your goal on a daily basis is to continuously try things that are remarkable. And these things that are remarkable in the world always require failure. A fine example is Elon Musk, who had built a lot of, in fact, maybe switch away from Elon Musk and come back to Nigeria. A fine example is a lot of the startups we have around today in Nigeria. These startups didn't just wake up tomorrow and actually become successful. Some of them that you hear about today have actually gone through different phases, right, of near-death scenarios, near-death situation as a business, but they kept on pushing and kept on thriving and kept on building products that they believe that the market would actually use and find value in it, right? And this actually helped a lot, and that's the reason why we have some businesses today that are actually very successful, because they know the value of going into the market with the potential of, if this happens, if we fail, we'll learn from this, and if we without trying, we're actually not going to learn from it or actually become or define if this is actually a good product for us or not. Another lesson for us that we can take away from this is, as product managers or product owners, we want to always be driven by the idea of using data and not always opinions. In most cases, as a product manager, you always feel that you have an idea. And just because you have an idea, most people probably might not even do the necessary research and just go ahead and execute, right? Or you probably have a product that you're building, you are with your product team, you guys are having conversations around how do you want to scale this product, how do you ensure that this product is generating the right revenue for this quarter or that quarter, and when you're doing all the financial financial model, right? And you realize that, and you start asking yourself questions. Why should we charge customers 9%, or why should we charge customers 10%, or why should we charge customers 5%? And sometimes, if those decisions are backed just by mere opinions of people who seems to be the highest paid person in the table, and not just because you have data to back it, what you end up realizing is you're only pleasing your ego or satisfying your ego of, I think my opinion is good enough, and this opinion will actually help us in staying alive as opposed to dying. And with that case, you're basically limiting yourself as a business or as a product. So the best solution would have been backing those informations or backing those ideas or those opinions with data. With data, like, it's easier for you to convince anyone and everyone about what you are doing. Data is your primary source of everything. It's one of the major source or reliable source of every decision you want to make or you should make as a business or as a product manager. And when you have data, it's easy for you to be able to move faster in the decision room. But if you don't have data, what you end up realizing is you're arguing with either your VP of product or your SVP of product or your Scrum Master or your engineers or whoever it is you have in the team. And you guys go back and forth and back and forth. And you just keep having the ego conversations or just basically having the ego debates because one person feels that their opinion is higher than the other person's opinion. And in most cases, as product managers, you often feel that you are the CEO of a product. And that's one of the biggest lies. No product manager is the CEO of any product. Product managers, you are not the CEO of any product. And you don't drive decision in product by enforcing your opinion on the product team. Your goal is to ensure that the team is working wholeheartedly or working cohesively together in deciding how you move the product further, right, or further, or deciding how you ensure that the product is generating enough revenue that keeps the business alive, right, or ensuring that the particular scrum, what's the word now, sprint that you are running ends up with the success, and not at the end of the sprint you have a lot of bug, right? So some of these things, some of the best opinions for you to make as a product manager is always driven by reliance on data and not always your opinion. One other interesting point again is measuring impact as opposed to effort. In the case of Kodak, Kodak had a huge impact in the business, but the executive team who were not so sure of going with the digital, probably would have thought in their head, what impact would we have, or is Kodak going to have? This is echoing. I don't know what's coming from.
Can you guys hear me?
Hi, Joshua. Your mic is mute.
Your mic is muted. Hi, guys.
I can hear you now.
Okay. Guys, please, when you join, yes, we can hear you. Please, guys, when you join, make sure that your mic is muted, even after you join. Adeyemi, please. Adeyemi Adetola White Oak, please take caution. Thank you. Please, Joshua, you can go ahead.
Thank you very much. So I'll just take that again. So one other important thing for product manager basically for you is to always measure impact and not effort. In most cases as a PM, you are basically driven by how many tickets are we able to complete in this sprint? How many bugs do we have from this sprint? How fast can we finish up with this sprint and deliver this feature? How many customers can we get out when this feature is out and all of that? Now, in the course of doing that, there's value in basically measuring efforts. But if you are thinking in 10x terms, there's more value in measuring impact, because the impact you are actually contributing or actually putting forward in a product and a feature with a product or with a feature is more lasting, right? Or would leave lasting memory than even the effort in itself. If you fixate yourself on effort, you are creating more problem for yourself than you're actually solving. A fine example is that of Kodak as well. Kodak, as one of the biggest companies in its days, had a lot of impact. But they could actually have 10x impact at the time if they had actually gone digital, right? But because they could not go, they didn't go digital. They were held back by the opinions of some people in the boardroom who felt this is not a good product for us to put out on the market, just because they're not sure of how the market is going to react to it. And that held them back. And sometimes these things also hold us back as product managers. When you worry so much about how much or how fast am I going to do this, as opposed to how much impact is going to add in market. Another fine example is, and how to think about this is, if you're a product manager working on the product, and the product has gone on to basically raise, let's say you work on a product or you build a product that helps the company in raising a good, raising investments. Let's say a cap of like $1 million, right? And that business is able to scale from whatever it was, from a seed stage to Series A, etc. That's in that case, if you compare that to a product manager who, for instance, what you're basically doing every day is ensuring that your customers are happy, the product is doing fine, there are no complaints about your product, everything is fine, and all of that. At the end of the day, there will be more impact that would have been contributed by the product manager who was interested in ensuring that there's the product can actually generate more revenue and help the business in actually closing their next financial round, right? And that, because that financial round helps in changing the face of the business as a whole. In that case, the CEO and everybody in the team will remember the role that that product played in helping them get to where they are. Versus a product manager who's working in a product that has little or no impact, but is more fixated on how much effort or how much bugs you are solving or how much bugs you are going to fix, we haven't left in the queue and all of that. So impact has a lot of role to play in your job or in our job as product manager on a daily basis. I work in one of my previous experiences where basically we're helping software engineers actually get jobs. And one of the biggest problems solving them we had then was Andela had built similar products, and Andela was trying to help both senior and junior engineers get placed at the end of their training. But the interesting thing was that Andela was only able to scale the senior engineering market because most international companies were interested in hiring senior engineers as opposed to junior engineers, because they felt for junior engineers there's not enough experience and they don't want to take the risk of basically training people all over again. And that was a limitation for Andela to deal with. And as much as they tried managing that phase, at some point Andela had to let go of all the junior engineers that they had in their portfolio, right? So many people who were not in the business phase saw that as a bad brand for Andela, but that was not the case. Andela were focusing on an aspect of the business that would give them much impact and actually help them scale. Don't forget that at the end of doing that, Andela went on to become a unicorn, right? They were able to raise money because people understood how they were positioning themselves as a business. But the company I was working with at the time was not focused on scaling how we ensure the junior engineers to get jobs in the Nigerian market and other markets across the world. So what we basically did was build a simple product where if you are a company and you're trying to hire an engineer, in most cases in Nigeria and Africa, most businesses or startups don't have the revenue or they have not raised money. Even if you've raised money, right, do not have the money to hire a lot of senior engineers. So what you can probably want to do is have maybe 1 or 2 senior engineers and then fill that up with junior engineers. With that, it's easier for them to be able to manage the business, manage that engineering team, right? Because you probably have 1 or 2 senior engineers who are serving as a guide to the junior engineers in terms of code review, ensuring that the bugs that they have they're working on a team on a product is actually well done, like making sure things are pretty much done fast. So what we basically did at the time was go to these companies and tell them, if you are looking for a junior engineer and you are not sure if this person is a fit for you, we have a simple solution. Come to us, tell us how many engineers you want, what language you want them in, and how long you would want to hire these guys. We'll give you these guys to come in and intern for you a particular time frame. At the end of the internship, we would be in touch with you to ensure that these engineers from week 1 to the end of the internship are delivering based on the KPI that we both parties have agreed and set for this engineer to perform. And with that, at the end of that internship, you cannot make a decision of, okay, this engineer is going to deliver on this between this and that percentage. And for this reason, we are going to hire him and pay him the agreed salary as discussed with you. And with that approach, we're able to build a very simple product. We ran a very simple pilot. And at the end of the day, a lot of companies were happy to hire engineers from us. Well, we have companies hiring as high as 10 engineers, 5 engineers, 2 engineers. And that had a lot of impact in solving the problem of junior engineer hiring in the Nigerian market. And that's why today we have a lot of companies who are basically now trying to train people to become software engineers and actually get them jobs. In fact, some are no longer promising jobs, but there are not a lot of people who are training people to become junior engineers. There were key players in the market who ensured and built a model for that to actually scale on. Most people don't know this, but that's actually the story. All right. And so for this, at that point that we're actually more interested about impact. And the impact is today, there are a lot of engineers who reach out to me and say, Josh, thank you for what you guys did in so and so period. And some of those engineers today are in Australia, some are in US, some are in Canada, and different countries across the world. And all of this I'm saying is what has happened within the last 2 years. Impact, right? And so building products and ensuring that I'm focusing on the impact that your product will have in the market or in the company goes a long way in helping you scale or think in 10x terms versus fixating yourself on how much effort am I putting in within this particular time frame, right? Because in the long run, that might actually create a certain level of limitations for you as a product manager. One other interesting point I'd like to talk about is as PMs, it's also very important to learn, either as product manager or product owners, it's very important to learn the art of product management. In most cases, when you feel as a product manager or when you're fired as a product manager, it's not always about the science of product management. And some of you will be asking, what is the science or what is the science and the art of product management? The science of product management is mostly centered around the technical bits, right? Why the art of it is a soft skill. In the most part of our career as a product manager or as a business owner, soft skill will help us a lot to scale it, because if you have all of the technical bits, for instance, as a company, and you don't have company culture, or you don't have a good company culture, the chances of you retaining the team you have for a long term is pretty much limited, right? The same thing applies to you as a product manager. Most people, quote unquote, call it soft skills and then ignore the fact that this is the most important thing for you as a PM. And what are some of these soft skills? Communication, right? Understanding when to communicate to your stakeholders that your product or the feature that you're working on might not be ready within the given time frame or the agreed time frame, and you need more time to actually do that. Or communicating with your engineers to ensure that they understand the feature that they're supposed to, that you actually want them to do. Breaking down your understanding that your team actually understands the user stories that you're actually putting up for them on Jira, right? Very, very important. And if you are not able to do this, it has a lot of impact on how your product or even the feature that you're building or working on is actually going to come out at the end of the day, right? Another interesting skill that is also very important is an art of product management itself, again, is stakeholder management. As a PM, one of the very interesting skills for you is how well do you manage your stakeholders to the point where everybody is in full alignment with what you're doing and what you're delivering as a PM, right? Your stakeholders are not in alignment with what you're building on a daily basis. You're not sharing those information with them. They don't have insight on what you're doing. It's as good as working with silos, which is very common with software engineers. And that should not be the case for product managers or product owners. So the art of product management gives you a very, very, it's a superpower for you as a product manager. There's nothing wrong in you as a PM being able to say, no, I don't know this thing when your stakeholders ask, or when your software engineer asks, well, how are we supposed to do this? There's a value in saying, no, I don't know, or I'll find out, or we'll figure this out, right? As opposed to trying to dribble people around and try to make excuses or just make out reasons as regards why you think this is what should be done, or this is what you think has to be built, and all these different things. That art itself, because in the end, if you learn all the science, you're able to use Jira. You can configure Jira to do so and so stuff that you want for you as a PM. You can go on from, you can build a very good user flow, customer journey flow. You can go on from there to do design and all those technical bits. And then the fact that there's the art, there's the art that actually makes you a very, very good and experienced product manager in the long term, right? So these are like, the art itself is one of the most important things that you can learn in the early part of your career as a PM, and that would actually help you in growing and staying long as a product manager. The last point I would want to draw out from this is tools don't always matter, or tools don't matter. In most cases, you realize that you want to learn how to, how am I supposed to use Jira to do this? How am I supposed to use, what tools do I need in writing product strategy? What tools do I need to learn in writing product roadmap? Or what do I need to, when you're starting your journey, right, as a PM, if you sit down with me and you ask me, Josh, what are some of the tools or framework you use today as a PM? And I write everything from you from A to Z, up to the point of the brand of pen I use. What you would end up doing for yourself is basically copying someone's style, or basically just repeating the same thing I have done in my own self. And and on your own, not learning what you need, like basically not building out your own skill or building out your own approach in product management, right? When I started as a product manager, one of the easiest tools I was very much comfortable using at the time was, now people use Notion a lot, though I wasn't even using Notion on any of these tools at that time. I was basically just using Microsoft Word. That's what I use for all of my product roadmap. That's what I use for, I'll use Microsoft Excel for roadmap. I'll use Microsoft Word for product strategy and all of this different documentation, worry less about tools. And these things will help you a lot in learning the core function of your role as product manager or a product owner. Because the moment you understand the job itself, it becomes easier for you to pick up every other thing, right? If you don't understand the job, if you don't understand what you're supposed to do and how you can do that to the smallest or the barest minimum, the most available tools you have with you, then it becomes difficult for you to deliver when you have more. If in some companies you have resources, for instance, in Flutterwave, we have a lot of resources in terms of what we do or what we use as product managers. But if you go, it's not all companies that have the same resources as Flutterwave. So the question is, do you underperform because you're a product manager in a smaller company? Or do you have to should you find a way around how you perform and deliver the best for whatever company you're working with as a product manager? So these are some of the core areas or core aspects that makes it very, very valuable as a product manager and keeps you in the business for as long as possible. I remember one of my product I built like 3-4 years ago, AgriPay. We were trying to, so I made a research where I figured out that small-scale farmers in Nigeria are not, or in Africa, are not able to access more than 3% lending, 3% in loan. And for them to even get these loans, they have to provide a lot of documentations that they do not even have. I mean, they are farmers in rural communities. These guys don't have anything such as a business model or registered business and all these different things. But they need a loan in some cases to buy fertilizers, to buy quality seeds, to buy insecticides to basically fumigate their farm and all those different things. And the reasons why they have these challenges is because they don't have enough financial knowledge. So the question for me at the time was, how do we solve this problem for farmers? How do we ensure that farmers, when they make money, can actually keep a bit of what they have and use that in solving the problem in the future? So what I did in the simple time was went to a small rural community, had a lot of user interview with these farmers, asked them a lot of questions on why they're having challenges. And after getting all those different feedback, I basically went to the Bali of that community in Ibadan and told them that I'm working for so-and-so company and we're trying to solve a particular problem. And the Bali said, okay, no problem, come in a particular time period and I would have gathered all the farmers in this community or in this village, and then you can talk to them about your product. So before that time, what I simply did was I designed a very simple card. I don't what you guys call Ajo, like the simple Ajo card that we use today in the market we use today. And with that Ajo card, so when I went to the community to talk to them on that day, on that good day, I told them that one of the biggest problems they have is basically accessing loan. And if they go to banks or they go to microfinance, the information required is usually difficult for them to provide. And even if they have some of this information, the interest on top of those loans itself is pretty much crazy. A fine example is Lapo. If you don't pay back Lapo, they can come in and harass you or beat you up until you collect their money, right? And you don't want to go through that. So we have a simple product that we want to use in solving this problem for you. This is an Ajo card. A lot of you are familiar with this. With this Ajo card, we come to your village every day. We put you guys in a group of 10. We come to your village every day. We're able to collect 200 naira from you every Friday. If you're able to save 200, so I will give them a very raw data. If you're able to save 200 naira on a weekly basis, in a month, you will have, 250 naira on a weekly basis. In a month, you'll have 1,000 naira in your wallet. At the end of the year, you have 12,000 naira. But your financial need does not wait till the end of the year. Sometimes could be mid-year, it could even be next month. So what would have done is, at any point in time in which you need anything, be it seeds, fertilizers, chemicals, tractor, or whatever, through partnership that we have with several businesses or several companies, we would be able to take from the pool of the people in the group that have saved and use that to solve the problem of one farmer, right? And they're like, no, we don't want that. We've had a lot of people come here to do that and it didn't work for us. They cheated us and wanted with money and blah, blah, blah. I mean, in today's time, we call them charlatans, right? People go in, lie and deceive people to get money. So what I did was, I was lucky enough to get 2 people who said they actually like it and they think they're interested. And what they did for me was, before I came in the next Friday, they had gathered 8 more people, making 10. And those were the first 10 people who started that community with, and we registered all of them into our Excel sheet. So the interesting thing was that there was no digital product at all. We're basically building from hand. We're basically hand-holding all of the farmers through the journey. So while the farmers would go to the village, collect their 250 naira, write it in the card that they save, they have a credit of 250 naira in their Ajo card. We'd go, when we get back to the office, open the Excel sheet and type in, so we have names of all those farmers, put in the amount that the farmer has saved for this month under credits. Then whenever a farmer says they need any loan or anything, that goes under debits, and we're able to have like a total balance for every farmer. And that's how we did it. And by the time those first 10 customers, farmers who were interested in joining or saving with us, one farmer from them needed fertilizer because, that was they had a tomato farming season, and he needed fertilizer to be able to make things go faster for him, and it was close to harvest. And what we did was just take money from the pool and bought fertilizer and brought it. The moment we came to the village, our supply guys came to the village and dropped the fertilizer. It was a crazy quality of fertilizer that they've not seen before, and very expensive, right? And they're like, how did you get this? How did you get this? What are you to do? And they're like, we got this from these guys at AgriPay. So with word of mouth, the product started growing. A lot of farmers were now rushing into the communities, into our system. The goal for us at the time was to pilot with 50 farmers. At the end of our 6-month pilot, we had already been able to register 500 farmers across 3 different villages. And after the pilot, what we did was digitize the entire experience, and we leverage on very simple APIs like USSD APIs with from different API providers. And we switched from using Ajo card to building a scratch card where every time a farmer buys our scratch card, scratches that card, dials *222, star the card and the information on the card. So there are 2 cards, either the 500 naira card or the 250 naira card. At the point of using any of this scratch card, once they dial this card, they get a notification on their phone that so and so amount of money has been saved in their account. So we're able to walk the customers through that journey, through that experience, from hand-holding them from the point in which that product started its creation, the creation of that product in itself, to building out an actual digital experience. And if you'd notice, this is an interesting story of a product that has huge impact on the life of farmers, and also done from a point of 10x thinking, right? Because you have to think around, what experience do I want my product, or my customers to actually have when they use my products? How do I want to ensure that these customers are happy? How would I generate revenue for this company, right? If this product goes into the market, how much revenue can we get within a particular time frame? So thinking through those things, right, means you have to do a lot of research and have data to back your thought process, and not just sitting down and thinking, I just want to do this because I've heard someone do this and it was nice. Because someone has done it and it was nice doesn't mean you're going to do it and end up being nice as well, right? So a lot of these are some of the challenges. And if you also notice as well, right, there were no perfect product at the time when we started. There was no perfect tool. It was a very, very simple product that was built from handcraft, that was actually handcrafted, right, to fit the actual purpose of what we're trying to solve for. And went on from building a handcrafted product to building a digital experience with the customers. So, and there was also the interesting part of covering the art of product management itself, where actually empathetic to the users. We understood the problem, the challenges they were facing. We're able to put ourselves in their shoe and solve the problem that actually fits their own need, right? There was data to back us. There was no worry of, if this doesn't work, what happens? It was simple for us. I told the company at the time, if this doesn't work, we'll fold. But if it works, it's good for us to be a good tale or a good story for us, right? And everybody in this community should know us. One story I forgot to mention is the fact that from just having farmers in Ibadan, we went into Ogun State, went into Osun State, and also went into Ilorin as well, Kwara State, right? That's how fast product grew until I left the business. So for me, that's the business really of product management. That's what it takes for you to be a product manager. There's more to it, and we can spend the whole of today discussing it. But in my experience, these are very important points and very, very important lessons and stories that has always guided me towards my journey, starting out as a junior product manager or someone who was just a product user to becoming a product manager today, where I am. I think that's the end of my TED Talk today. I'm sure there are a lot of questions from you guys. I'll be happy to take your questions and provide more insights or feedback.
All right, thank you very much, Joshua. It's been an amazing and insightful conversation you have you're taking us through. And of course, we have learned so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I've learned so much, from your experience. And I like the fact that you just used, your experience to explain all of these things. It really, really makes it, worthy. Thank you so much. And yes, guys, one thing I know that is very key that Joshua said is your users. Your users. Your users are just very important, and data as well. Very, very much important. So I know that there are a lot of questions, and we have hands raised. So let's have Adeyemi Adetola Waiho. Waiho, please unmute yourself and let's have your question. Adeyemi Adetola Waiho, your hand is up. All right. His hands are down now. Let's have B Olofitila.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Joshua, thank you so much for your talk this evening and the experience you've given so far. I can resonate with that because at some point during my career during my journey this year, I was having a thought of the last conversation you had concerning crafting something for people that contribute, and I think what you said is helpful, but my question is during that process, what were the challenges you faced in terms of the cost, or let me say what you were saving was quite low from the fertilizers you got for them. So how are you able to cover up in that terms? Because concept, let me just say, basically what I wanted to build was build a community where people can save freely, and in case they have challenges, they can come over and get loan with no interest, basically. So I was thinking, from your own hand, what was the challenge you faced and how did you solve it?
Yeah, so there's this saying that it is difficult to get people to 10 people to love a product, but it's not difficult if you spend enough time with them, right? If you understand your customers and what they really want, one of the interesting things you enjoy as a product manager is you are able to build and walk through the journey with those users. That's not to say that everything you build as a product manager should always satisfy customers, because in some cases, I mean, an alternative opinion to my initial point is, if you ask customers what they want, they tell you they want a horse that's flying. I think that's a popular saying by someone, I can't remember his name, right? So
Henry Ford.
Henry Ford, yeah. So one of the challenges, or some of the challenges we faced at the point, was customers or the users trusting us enough, because local governments go to these farmers and tell them, save money with us, or give us this or give us that. This is what you're going to enjoy, right? And every other association guys have actually gone there to do the same thing. And because the charlatans who had gone there to mess up all of this relationship, and we know Nigerians, right? Trust is always very difficult. That was one of the biggest challenges we had. And that's the reason why, even after speaking to all the users in that village, with the help of the ballet to gather those farmers together, and they all said, no, we are not interested. It was just a few of them that said yes. The fact that those 10 people trusted us helped us grow that product by mere word of mouth. And that mere word of mouth, we could not have disappointed those people. If we had disappointed those people that trusted us with mere word of mouth and helping us spread our products, it would have been a disaster. So trust was one of the biggest challenges we had. And even when we got to the point of having about 100 customers still, they were still sending people who had sense of doubt, right? Because we had people from different languages. So for us, it was the kind of product we're building was centered around community and trust. And you know how difficult it can be when you're building a community-driven product, right? Every little challenge or mistake you make would have a ripple effect in the entire product. So for us, we focused and tried so much to ensure that every time we said we are going to do this, before going out to the farmers or the customers to say we're going to do this, we had already ensured that we're able to do it. The second challenge we had at the point was also financing. So the business at the time had not raised money. So what we had to do was, myself and the leadership had to partner with some of the input providers like Design Golf, I think Dizengov and some other companies, I can't remember their name. So these guys produce seeds, chemicals, while we also partner with the guys that also produce fertilizers. So whenever we have, so we always have like a season, we have a spreadsheet that covers seasons in which farmers will need a particular farm input. We even have a partnership with guys that actually bring in tractor into the villages. So we have data for all of these different seasons. So at any point in time, we know farmers are going to need tractors. We're able to have all those things demanded in bulk, right? So we don't just have one farmer saying he needs a tractor. It has to be 10 farmers, it has to be 20 farmers, it has to be 100 farmers. So that when the tractor comes in, the tractor stays in that village for the whole week and mower, right? And does what he has to do in the entire village for that week. And you'd have ended up solving the customer of 50 farmers or 100 farmers in a particular village. So that would save us the cost of having them to go, come, right? So we're able to basically structure all of this. The second for us is if we now need situations where, so with that, we had a low cost, right? And we're not spending so much money. If the farmers were doing it individually, at the time, they probably would have spent 5,000 naira in bringing the tractor to the village for one person in a day per farmer, right? Or per acre, 5,000 naira per acre. But because we are the ones bringing them, the farmers can do up to 5 acres for a lower amount of money, right? So that solved the saved cost for us and also solved the saved cost for the farmer as well. In terms of seeds, we know the season in which these the seed producers or the fertilizer producers have these seeds at discounts. So we'd have negotiated with them and tell them that within this particular time frame, we know that our farmers would need so and so particular seeds. They should give us, let them keep these seeds for us because those are the discount season where we have maybe 40% or 50% off, and we're buying them at a cheap rate. Same quality, cheaper rates. So by the time the farmers' demand comes in, we're able to supply to them, and they're happy to have the seeds. Same for fertilizer. So for us, really, having that data and using it to manage the entire operational bits helped us a lot in saving costs and managing through that phase. I wouldn't take away the fact that there was challenges with fundraising, but we're able to raise a little amount of funds. But because we had a structure in how the business was running, we didn't depend so much on using our own capital or having to worry about investors. And that's one of the biggest challenges that people who build businesses or product managers need to understand, right? Or might not understand. There is a huge value in building a business and trying to raise investment for it. But there's also value in building an actual business that can scale without an investor's money. If you are building a business that can scale without an investor's money, then you're not building a business because the moment that money goes up, then that product dies off. And that's the reason why that's some of the reason, not the only reason why we have some failed products today in the market. Because the users or the product managers or the product owners, right, didn't do enough research or aren't even sure if the market needed that product at the time where they're building it. And I was still having a conversation with the leadership of that product recently that if this product had been built now where MTN had their MTN Momo out, it would have scaled better and faster than at the time when it came out. So that also addresses the question of building a product based on a particular time frame. And sometimes you might not even know the time you need the product to actually be out. And this is not based on Eureka Moments. Eureka Moments does not give you any of these things, right? Yes, data does a lot of that, right? Then there's always a bit of luck in it as well, right? And yeah, I think those are some of like the core reasons, right? Challenges we had, and we were just able to do or survive through that phase by ensuring that there was trust built into the product. We're always there to answer and attend to all customers whenever they have challenges. Sometimes these users will call our customer care service as late as 12 a.m. or 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. Somebody's always there to answer those calls. And we also work very closely with the agricultural department in Oyo State, UI, University of Ibadan, right? So in the research aspect of what farmers really need, how we can actually help them improve their bit, providing trainings to all of them, UI, University of Ibadan, the agricultural department is providing a lot of those resources for us. And in the season where the engineers or the agri students are going into their farm year, right, some of them volunteer to do internship with us to use that to learn practical knowledge, and they're able to pass those experiences or those knowledge to the farmers as well. I don't know if that answers your question.
Thank you very much, dude.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you very much for doing justice to that question. Guys, do you have other questions for our speaker before we call it a night? Questions? Do we have questions? All right, I believe we do not have questions because nobody is actually raising their hands or hand. right? Thank you so much, Mr. Joshua Osunbor. It's really been an insightful session, and we are just glad that you you broke everything down. Okay, we
So,
have a question on the chat box from Femi. Femi said, you mentioned making impact. How do you determine that in the early phase?
yeah, one very interesting way to determine that again is data. And I know I sound like a broken record calling data, all of that. There's huge value in relying on your opinion that if I build this product, or you see a company and say, Flutterwave is solving this particular product, this particular problem in the market in fintech, but they're not solving this problem, and I want to solve this problem. Have you done enough research to understand why Flutterwave is not solving that product or solving that problem? Have you done enough research to understand if there are similar products doing the same thing? Have you done enough research to understand if there's a market for that problem you're actually trying to solve for, right? If you've not done this research to know if there are reasons or if there's a market for what you're building for, all you have ended up doing is sitting down on your own, thinking about an idea, getting designers on board to design a website, design everything for you, and boom, you go out there and then you learn the hard lesson and come back learn. Entrepreneurship is hard. No, that's not the case. It's not always the case. It's just because some of us do not spend the time to do enough research to actually know if there's a market for the product we're solving for. So it's very important to know that there's a market for the problem you're solving for, right? There's a need for it. There's a high need, not just need, but a high demand for it, right? And then you can actually bid for it. Because if you are building a problem that, and in most cases, the best products are built, or some of the best products you have in the market today are built based on the experience of the particular founder, or maybe even the product manager that was just in that company, right? Because sometimes product managers, and I find example is you're in a team where there's a product that they're actually running on, and because of all the different experiences that you're going through, what you end up doing is you go through you do a research and find out that, and then you go on to your CEO with your research and say, wow, I think we should build this product. This product will help us in basically solving XYZ problem, and we can actually generate XYZ revenue within XYZ quarters. What you ended up doing at the end of that day is, at the end of that research, is convince your CEO. So it's not up to them to decide, okay, do we want to do this? But in making those decisions, it's still dependent on what is the market telling you, what's data telling you about the market that you can actually go with. On the flip side, sometimes the data might tell you that there's a huge reason or a huge demand for you to go and solve a problem, only for you to go in there and realize that this is not the right time, right, for this problem that you're solving. And so there is that as well. But it's very important to go with the idea of doing enough user research, market research, right, and ensuring that there is need or there is demand for the product that you are putting out in the market, and you are sure that in the course of your iteration, in the course of improvement, we continue to make changes to the product, and users will always find value in what they are doing. If some of the biggest startups we have in Africa are not doing that, then they will not be there in the market today. Some of the best startups we have in the world, same thing for them as well. You can go on to think, Google has a dedicated website that lists all their failed products. They have over 1,000 failed products. I mean, at the time, there was Google Glasses. There's Google Glasses today. It's dead. Or was it because they didn't do research? No, they did research. They were sure that this is going to solve a particular XYZ problem for them. And then it came out in the market, and this could not scale. Were there reasons why it did not scale? Yes, obviously. The same for today, we have Facebook pushing for metaverse today, right? And they're talking about, what's the name of this? There's these 3D glasses, right, that they're pushing for right now. And my biggest objection for that is, I'm trying to remember the name of that. That's basically what you guys wear when you're trying to have like a 3D experience. Oculus. Yeah, Oculus is actually very expensive. It's actually very expensive, and it's also heavy. For you to bring that into the mass market, you have to think about how do we ensure that this product is lighter, right? It's as light as your glasses, such that anybody can actually wear it, start wearing. That's the only way VR right? That's the only way VR can actually go into a mass market, and people can. Then you also have to think about pricing. How do we reduce the price for this to actually go into a mass market for a lot of people to be able to afford it, right? These are some of the reasons or some of the things you need to think about. For instance, today, Tesla, as big as Tesla is, Tesla is not a product for the mass market because not everybody can afford Tesla, but everybody can afford a Toyota. And that's the reason why in every market you go into today, you see a Toyota car there. Why even the poorest person can actually save money within a year and buy a Toyota car. But the poorest person in the country cannot go save money and buy a Tesla. Maybe I'm exaggerating with the word poorest person, but an average person, right? But just an average person in any country cannot save money and buy a Tesla. But you can save money and buy a Toyota Camry, right? Because they are bidding for the mass market. Do you understand? So these are some of the values that helps us in basically determining how much impact will the product I'm building have in this market when it goes out there. Or this product that is already out there, how do I ensure that this product has enough impact, right? That will translate back to what I'm doing, right? So that's basically like a bit of insight with regards to how you can determine impact when you're working on a product early on. I have a product I'm working on today. I'm working on currently. I work on a lot of products. I'm working on a particular products where we're basically looking at scaling for a particular market. And this is a product that is embedded into one of our biggest products. But we're now bringing it out from being a feature to being a standalone product. And a lot of what I had to think about is how often can we make money with this product, with this feature-turned product, right? And how are we sure that customers can actually use this as a standalone? So we have to review the entire experience from scratch, right? We had conversations with customers. I love user journey and user conversations a lot, right? Engaging customers to know or understand their experience in the product, because that helps me a lot in determining how I want to build an actual end-to-end experience. If you are building a product and you do not understand the end-to-end experience as a customer from your own end as a PM, when the product goes out there and complaints come back, you'll be struggling with, where is this issue coming from? How do I solve this? You just start looking for where the solution really is, because you really do not understand the end-to-end side of it. I hope I've been able to.
All right, thank you very much.
Question.
Yes, you have answered the question. I hope Femi is clear on that. All right. Anita Oje is asking, can you give case studies of conducting case researches? That question. Can you? Maybe a few, maybe one or something.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
So can you do what? Case studies of conducting market research. When you say case studies, what do you mean though? Like case study for a particular, so the case studies is dependent on the kind of products you are focusing on. If you are,
exactly.
Yeah, you can connect with me on Twitter. Just drop my Twitter handle. If for instance, if you are a fintech PM, or if you are looking at getting a job in the fintech space, right? You want to look at basically doing research, a lot of fintech case studies. And very fine example of that is there are some case studies. You should actually look at case studies around how people move money around in the fintech space, right? There are some APIs that are centered around money movement just alone. And this is how companies like Okra and Mono started. And they are now very good at and very big at what they do today. And in fact, some of them have virtual cards as a singular product they are putting out there for people to actually leverage and sell to end users, right? So, but I think if you want to really build on the case study, you just need to ask yourself, what sector, what area do I want to focus on in terms of my case study research, right? If it's going to be edtech, what kind of problem are you looking at? Is it job placement for software engineers, job placement for product managers? Why are product managers not getting jobs after taking a lot of certifications? Then you can now start looking at building a lot of reasons. I know I did something similar for a company in Kenya like 5 months ago. So with that, we're able to now develop a solution that I shared with them. I don't know if they're implementing it now, because they were not offering that cost and they needed a case study to help them do that. So for me, I think is you basically just realizing, asking yourself what area you want to really focus your research on, and just building out case studies on it. If there are specifics that you need me to help out with, right, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Twitter, or anywhere, and I'm happy to just help out and guide you through that.
Hi, awesome. Thank you very much for that one. So, guys, we have come to the end of today's session, and it's just been an amazing time with Joshua Osunbor. So you can connect with Joshua on LinkedIn at Joshua Osunbor, and you can also connect with him on Twitter at Josh Osunbor, right? And also, the recording for this session will be available on InnovaLab YouTube channel, so you can just go ahead subscribe to our YouTube so that you can get the notification when the video is being uploaded on YouTube. However, guys, okay, before I go into that, thank you all very much for joining today's session. We have another session tomorrow, and it is an interesting topic as well, right? And the topic is with Mrs. Folua Olorunshola. She's a senior product manager with also, over a decade in the product management space, and she has been making impacts in the product space as well. So we will be speaking, we'll be discussing about the topic, what do you need to do to keep expanding? Sorry guys, before I come and say the wrong topic, right? What does it take to have a successful product management career? So she'll be giving us tips on how to go about that. And of course, I believe she'll be sharing also from a bit from my experience. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today's conversation. Thank you so much, Joshua Osunbor. It's a delight to have you here. Thank you so much for every knowledge, everything that you have impacted us today. We're glad and we're grateful. So, guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Yes.
I wanted to just announce that I'm working on a job placement product for product managers, Scrum Masters, and QA engineers. I think that would be announced sometime around end of October / early November. So you get that information on Twitter. You guys can connect and also get opportunities in product management. So the plan for us is to be able to help a lot of PMs in the early phase get internship opportunities. And for the ones who are experienced, also get full-time gigs as well. So stay in touch on Twitter to get those informations.
You guys should stay in touch. So it's just very important. Thank you very much, Joshua Osunbor. Thank you so much. This is awesome. Thank you so much once again. So guys, please connect with Joshua once again on his social media handles, and please do well to follow InnovaLab on Instagram at InnovaLabNG, on Twitter at InnovaLab, and on LinkedIn at InnovaLab. Thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow when we get into another interesting discussion about this product management career. Until then, bye.
Bye, everyone.
Okay. Bye, blessing.
Bye. Bye.